right, guys. Got the doc here. Welcome to Lawrence Accountability and to the dreaded rabble rouser. We got some dreaded accountability live. Doc, can I hear you?
Yep. Can you hear me, man?
There we go. I think we got audio. We've got a couple viewers in there. Look, a couple more than a couple, but I'll let you do the introductions.
All right. So we're going to be talking about this county attorney there in Elk County, Kansas. Her name is Jill Gillette. And through a separate incident, we'll talk about here in the backstory leading up to this. She filed a motion in court with some stuff about me and Michael here that we're going to talk about. And this all starts there in Elk County with an unlawful arrest of a man named Robert Walker Jr. And Michael, I don't know if you want to tell that part of it, or.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dick at Kansas Freedom News had gotten word from people down there that this arrest had happened, and that was sometime in June, and we'll get into the timeline and everything. But towards the end of June, early July, I started getting wind of it and got a look at it, and one of the biggest parts of this is the July 9th visit that we made. And I think probably the best thing I'll let you help me decide here. This is our first podcast, so we're kind of making it up as we go and learning how to do this. But I think now would be kind of a good time to give a couple minutes and just show them our interactions with people down there. That way that you guys can, because the lies that we're going to be, let's wait until we get into the lies here, because I think that'll be better. So what we're talking about is this motion, and Doc, you've read this thing, and we talked about it at the courthouse the other day shortly after we obtained it from the court. I'm just absolutely blown away with how she describes that visit on July 9th.
Yeah, me too. And so basically, what it is that, with Robert Walker being arrested, you can see all that footage of his arrest and how he was treated in the courthouse over on Kansas Freedom News. And that's how I ended up coming across it. Kansas Freedom News had posted on his YouTube channel that arrest of Robert Walker Jr., and he had posted that in June of this year, so just a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. And then Michael got hold of it and posted it on his channel, and that's when I was aware of it as well. So if you haven't seen that footage of Robert Walker being arrested, you can go check that out at Kansas Freedom News. But when I saw that footage, I've been unlawfully arrested twice at county commission meetings, and it got me interested in it, and been talking with Michael, and we decided that we were going to go up to Elk County, which is in Howard County is where their courthouse is where that arrest happened, or in Howard, Kansas.
Howard, Kansas, yeah.
And we wanted to go up there. The arrest of Robert Walker more or less started with this supposed rule that the county has for accessing the courthouse, which requires you to identify who you are with at least your first name. So the doors are all locked on the courthouse, and you have to go up and you have to press the button, and it buzzes. And we found out on our visit that it buzzes over to the sheriff's department, which is just right next to the courthouse, like a 10 or 15 foot alleyway there. You just walk right over there.
Doc, let's take a minute and just show them just a little bit of that. That way they can see what we experienced when we walked up to that door. Just a few minutes.
Good morning, where are you headed?
To the sheriff's department.
Okay, you're at the courthouse.
Okay, where's the sheriff's department? I thought it was here.
Can I ask you what your name is?
Michael?
And where are you from, Michael?
I don't need to answer those questions, ma'am. You're asking me where I'm from?
Hey. Yep. And so that's what it's like getting in there. And when Robert Walker got arrested, that was part of the issue there. And so we wanted to go up and take a look at it. Me and Michael wanted to do that. So that footage there of us trying to gain access there was from our first visit there on July 9th. And shortly after our visit there on July 9th, which, Michael live streamed the whole thing from start to finish there. Shortly after that, there was a pre-trial hearing for Robert Walker, and that's when Jill Gillette, who is the they call him a county attorney, but it's more or less a district attorney. So our county attorney filed a motion, and the motion is what we're wanting to go over here in this podcast here. And the motion is just outrageous. The stuff that she's trying to say about me and Michael, and also Kansas Freedom News, Dick, what we did and what she wanted to have as like more or less like a punishment without due process. But we felt that this was important enough. We wanted to sit down and shed even more light on it, because it's just such a fucked up thing that she's trying to do to us and to Robert Walker as well.
So you guys got to look at the title of this thing. And I've talked to a few attorneys and they've not seen a motion with this long of a title, but it's got about 6 different items in it: protective order, non-dissemination order, seal certain documents, additional security, issue temporary ex parte injunctions, protective order to maintain status quo, limit recording and of press or public in the courtroom, and then finally the response to the motion to dismiss. Now, pretty quickly in this, she gets into all the hyperbole about how horrible things were on July 9th when we were there. And so she talks about the other parties working on the defendant's behalf. I wanted to point this out because I hadn't actually met Robert, and I hadn't even really talked to Robert. Actually, no, I hadn't talked to him at all. I talked to Dick, and I had an email with Jennifer and asked her about when the commission meetings were and what things happened down there. And then we chose to come down there to experience this for ourselves. Doc, I mean, that was the discussion between you and I, and we even had a third person that was going to come with us. So.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
And she talks about information about the personal and private lives of the officers and parties involved here. And, people put their private lives out there on the internet, and that's where this information comes from. Did you access anything that you weren't supposed to access there, Doc? As we go down through this, though, we see here they mentioned Dick at Freedom News and about the Cora requests that he made, and she's talking about the items that they can't release before trial. That has no bearing on this. But here she gets into July 9th when we showed up. And Doc, I'll let you take over here for a little bit.
Okay, well, overall, the accusation that she's trying to level on us is that there was medical records from both of the officers that were involved in the arrest of Robert Walker, or at least medical records of one of them. And the attorney there, Jill Gillette, is trying to say that when she turned those records over to Robert Walker and his attorney as discovery, that he leaked them to the press, is what she's alleging. That in the press is me, Michael, and Kansas Freedom News, meaning that he gave us those medical records, and that's a lie. That's just a straight up lie.
Right.
She the timeline of even her handing over the records to Robert Walker supposedly is off. The timeline is off, but I don't know exactly what all she's handed over to Robert Walker. And regardless of whatever she's handed over to him, he never gave anything to us, anything at all, and definitely not medical records. And so she's saying that we took those medical records and then posted them online. And, there's a lot wrong with that. I mean, even if that happened, we're not bound by HIPAA, but the whole thing is a lie, because, we didn't post anything because we don't have
possession of them. Well, and the accusations here started right away. They state that on July 9th, we came down, myself and you came down to Elk County, and we're live streaming of the day. And she made a big point about how we were live streaming inside the courthouse and how we shouldn't have been doing that. And that we were streamed the interaction with everyone, including the clerk of the district court office, and that we used derogatory names and demonstrated bias, prejudice, and slurs, inappropriate terms and things. And there's just nothing that could be further from the truth in that. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and hijack things, and let's just show you guys a little bit of what happened inside that Elk County courthouse that she's alleging that we used bias, prejudice, and slurs and all this other stuff. So this runs about 8 minutes. I probably won't let it go that long, but you're going to be able to see just a little snippet of what we were doing in that courthouse and how the interactions were happening.
Good morning, where are you headed?
To the sheriff's department.
Okay, you're at the courthouse.
Okay, where's the sheriff's department? I thought it was here.
Can I ask you what your name is?
Michael?
And where are you from, Michael?
I don't need to answer those questions, ma'am. You're asking me where I'm from? My name is Michael, and I need to see the court clerk. I was referred over here by the sheriff's department.
Okay, I don't believe they're there, but I'm going to check for you.
We'll just come.
Ma'am, can I visit the county clerk's office here or not? I've given you my name and told you where I'm headed. Please open the door.
If they're not there, I'm not opening the door.
We are inside the courthouse finally, and filling out a core request at the county clerk's office. And we're trying to get a copy of the court order that the judge signed, and I believe that was my deputy Love that just walked by here. There he is. Oh, deputy,
How are you?
doing well.
We got you guys in here, huh?
Well, actually, I believe he's in here against policy because they didn't get his ID and where he's from and everything.
They just need names.
Huh?
All they asked for is names.
Yeah, but he didn't identify anyway. I'm the one that got in, and he just walked in with me, kind of like Jennifer and Robert did. Are we going to rough him up today?
I don't run people up, sir.
Okay, I'm good. I've heard that about you. I've been talking to people about you. They tend to like you. So, what are we hearing about this judge's order? Do you have a copy
Actually,
of that?
while you were gone, I looked into that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Carrie's here yet. I'll look and tell you in just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
The county commissioners, at the recommendation of the judge, passed a resolution.
Okay,
So it was done by the commissioners.
okay,
I believe the year was 2010.
okay.
Just, I did a little bit more research and found out that it is a county resolution. Now, right or wrong, I'm not. I
We'll
don't
take that
do
up
civil
with,
law.
yeah, we'll take that up with the county commissioners, but if we can get a copy of that resolution, that'd be awesome.
If Carrie's here, I'm sure you can.
Okay.
Of course, you have to pay for everything.
Yeah. Now, the other question that I have is we haven't made any progress at all on the Sheriff's Department policy manual. I've even talked to Paul, the county counselor, and he left a message through us that he doesn't have it, that those requests have to go through the DA, and nobody seems to know where this policy manual is.
I told you earlier, I called the sheriff and asked specifically, do we have one? Yes, we do. The county attorney is reviewing it, and it is in her possession, and
What are we reviewing? Is it one that's been in place for a while?
Sir,
or-
I can't
Okay.
answer that. I'm not on the administrative end of this business. If I was, I'd give you more answers. But I'm
Gotcha.
not.
All right, yeah, if we could just get the copy of that judge's order, or the ordinance, I guess,
Yes,
that the county
it'll be
commission
a
passed.
county resolution, and
Okay.
if Carrie is here, I don't know if she's here or not, I'll find out.
Okay.
It's in the minutes of all of the public meetings that the county commissioners have
I
had
know a
forever.
county resolution would have to actually be typed up and inserted with the county
yes.
resolution. They should be able to search it and find it pretty
Yeah, she'll
easily.
have it
Okay.
if she's here.
That
This
is
stuff
for
here.
time. And then this is paper, document fee.
Yeah, but I mean specifically, you charge copy for getting a copy of the
Oh.
request that I'm submitting.
Oh, this? No, I can make a copy
okay,
of that.
good.
That's not a problem. Okay, sorry.
Sheriff's Department was going to charge me $1. You believe that?
Oh, no.
Jeez.
No, I can make a copy of
I was
that.
like, if I'm going to give them $1, maybe they can get an AC in their waiting room with it.
Oh, yeah, they've been live, I've been live streamed for a couple of times today. I guess the whole room can see how ignorant I am.
Just however you sign your check. It looks like you just did your first and last time.
Yeah.
Is that the sheriff?
Yeah, they complied with the resolution and they are in the courthouse and they are asking for,
Yes. And
they're going through the procedure asking for the documents they want.
Is the volume fixed on that?
Papers. I'm gonna give
And
you
they're not being rude or
There's your
indifferent.
copy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
taken off of that.
Hey guys, I think that right there is probably enough. I mean, you heard it from the deputy's own mouth that we were going through the procedures and we weren't being rude and we were following policy. I don't think there's any ambiguity there, Doc. What do you? I mean, can you
No.
argue with that?
No, none at all. None at all. And Jill Gillette will say in this motion here that we tried to access restricted areas and stuff like that. But what Love just said there is total opposite of what she's lying about there in court.
Now, this one really got me. And if you guys look on the screen here, they made it a point to tell the sheriff's office through dispatch that they are being accused of getting police officers in their prior interest cases killed. And I find that offensive, that she would try to make that argument. There was never anything like that said by either one of us.
No, never. And it's just another example of how the other side will, paint the narrative of us, whoever we are, us being threatening or being more of a threat than we actually are. So they'll say things like this because I don't even know what she's talking about. I don't know anything about police officers being killed or anything like that. And I've never talked about it, and neither have you. And so It's a complete lie to try and make it look like our involvement there on July 9th has the potential, maybe possibly, to lead to some bad stuff, is basically what she's trying to say there in her lie to the court.
Right. And now she also includes in this a number of different phone calls that were made. And I don't know who this Robert Desmond is, but buddy, if you're calling up and you're telling them that you want to take a court officer, you want to drag them out of their office and string them up in a tree, I'm going to recommend that you try to avoid calling while we're live somewhere, because right here, they're trying to pin that on us and say that was a problem that we created. No, I'm sorry. We're not responsible for Robert's behavior. And if he did, in fact, break a law with a true threat, then maybe they should take action there instead of filing lies in court and trying to press that on somebody else.
I know there's kind of an implication of she's trying to say we're inciting our viewers to do that. But if you go back and look at the live streams, I mean, you go back and look at anything that we do. We're not calling for people to do anything like that.
Right.
And so whatever people do on their own time after watching anything really is like, that's on them. They're not on us.
Well, the one thing we do call people to do is show up. I mean, you got to be a part of this process if you're going to have a voice in it. And that's a duty of just about everybody, and not something they can criminalize. In this area, she talks about the abandoned Cora requests. She calls them abandoned. But if you guys have been keeping up on Elk County, you're going to know that several attempts have been made to retrieve these Cora records from that office, from the sheriff's office. Dick even had Nicole go in there with a document saying that she could pick up those records, and they just simply harangued them and refused to provide those records.
And there was one time Dick went there and showed up himself, and the dispatch lady behind the black glass said that the person that was authorized to hand them over to him wasn't there that day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she's saying that they've just been flat out refused, and that's not true. And just look at the beginning sentence of that there. It says, after the events on July 9th, 2024, the officials received an email demanding a long list of things. Right. And I suppose, a Cora request is a demand of things, I suppose, but she's framing it as we were like, somehow overstepping our bounds or being rude or not following the protocol. And then she says a long list of things. First of all, that's subjective. A long list. And not only that, secondly, our requests grew as we learned more at our visit there. Had we not visited there, we wouldn't have known that stuff. And she's acting like it's some kind of bad thing that we're asking for these things that we're finding out down there. And I think that's part of why she's being the way she is. She's like, oh, these guys are down here poking around. They found out some stuff, and that ain't right. So let's do this motion to scare them off, and then also let's trump up some charges on them and threaten them with that as well, which they did in a separate incident as well. So,
well, in this one, she's referring to the Cora request that I did for the body cam video and the hallway video in the courthouse and things that show me in it. And that's something that we are entitled through Cora to receive. But I like how she again inserts this hyperbolic threat that these are not public videos. This is not footage for the case. This would result in them being able to be published publicly, and if done so, would allow the followers who have harmed police officers. So all you people out there watching that have harmed police officers, if we show you the video, that's going to give you the ability to go harm more police officers, apparently.
Look at that story she's spinning. Look at the case she's trying to build. She's trying to say that we've talked about how we've gotten police officers killed, and now she's running that same thread in here saying, well, these followers that have actually killed police officers, they might show up here, and we can't give them this footage of the inside of the public courthouse because they might use that as a way to, I don't know what, attack the courthouse, I guess. But the thing is like, that's all public. They could just walk in there and see what they wanted to see anyways. I don't know.
Well, and actually that's part of the issue. And that kind of gets us back to this whole thing about where this whole thing started. And I think that Fourth Amendment violation at the door is part of the reason they have this idea that they are some high secure area. And let's address where that Fourth Amendment violation comes from real quick. What do you say, Doc? Because what the people need to realize is we were told that was an ordinance. We were told that it was decided by commissioners. We were even told that a judge had laid down the law and said this. But here's
in that clip you just showed, Joe Love himself said it's a resolution.
Exactly. It was a resolution.
What he means by that is that the county commission with this resolution had put forth this motion to control access to the courthouse through some secure way, which they decided on was this buzzer intercom system with the sheriff's department that controls access, and you have to say your first name. And then they all voted yes. That's what a resolution would have entailed. And first, Joe Love tried to say that it was from the 13th district judge had ordered it. And then while we were there on July 9th, that's what he told us. And while we were there, that changed shortly to, well, it was a resolution. And we're like, all right, it's a resolution. And so that's one of the things that we requested on those core requests. And we never got to the bottom of it. But until yesterday when we were up there, or I guess, yesterday when we were up there, we talked to the county clerk who informed us that.
Well, let's let them watch and see exactly how we got informed of where this came from. You guys are really going to love this. It's about 3.5 minutes.
Well, what I'm understanding is there is no ordinance governing that, so
That's
we
interesting.
need that to come down.
Yeah. Who's enforcing that?
I was in county clerk in 2010.
Well, Carrie, here's the issue is that you don't have an ordinance, and what's the problem that we had originally when this all started was because Robert Walker was arrested out front here. I have had people tell me the excuse that I don't have to give my name anymore is because people know who I am. And we're going to say that nobody knew who Robert Walker was. I think that's a bit of a misstatement.
Yeah.
And then we have him being prosecuted for something that occurred stemming from a Fourth Amendment violation and a 14th and a Fourth Amendment violation.
It turns out there's no resolution.
And now there's no resolution to support it.
No,
It's just a tradition.
It's
It's a tradition.
just in the minutes where,
Can I get a copy of that?
It's interesting. In the minutes. That's interesting.
So-
it's not, it's basically not even really a motion in the minutes. We scoured the whole minutes, the resolution books, everything,
Do you
trying
think
to find stuff.
do you think it's something that should not be in effect then? I mean,
They
based
still-
on how the
they still
county
ask
operates.
me who I am, and I've been a county clerk here for over 8 years, but you have new dispatchers come in and
Right.
out, so they don't know who you are.
Plus-
I've lived in this county my whole life.
Last time I
I
was here, I
still
pushed
get
the button and
asked who I
said,
am.
I said my name was Joe, and they opened the door.
I'm just saying, just in general, is that thing, there's nothing backing it. There's no reason why it should be in effect.
I don't have, it
She's-
doesn't bother me either way, but
Yeah.
I see, I mean, I see the point. I really do.
So this is
Of the button.
Well, I see
the point that we're making.
This,
Oh, the
I
point
see,
that we're making. Oh.
yeah, I
See
mean,
both sides.
I see both sides of it, but
Okay.
this right here is the only,
And this is from when?
this is 2010.
January 25th,
Uh-huh.
2010. JP Logan reported that as a result of a threat to district court, security cameras with video reporting are being installed at 3 entrances. Card swipe entry and other visitors need to be buzzed in by the sheriff's department. All 3 officers were notified, all 3 commissioners were notified. So this doesn't look like there was any kind of directive. This just, who's JP Logan?
He was an old maintenance man that used to work
So
there.
then- So
he
I'm
did,
understanding.
There you go, guys. The maintenance guy. The maintenance guy created that ordinance. Wow.
Yeah, it would be one thing if this commission had put forth a motion and voted on something like that. It'd be one thing in terms of that, it's still, just because they approved a resolution doesn't mean they can do something unconstitutional. So it would still be an issue. But this isn't even on that level. This is just reflected in the minutes, and it's just been passed down over, basically 15 years now. And you just think about that. These are just a handful of government officials that have more or less just taken the access to a public building and restricted it without even notifying the public in the meeting that they were going to do that and put forth the idea and vote on it to give the public a chance to come in and speak on it and resist it. And it's just been passed on as a tradition, basically over time, and so that just it's entirely not allowed. That's a public building. I don't stress that enough. That's a public building. There is a courtroom in there, and that's got different access restrictions with filming stuff. But outside of that, it's a public building, and these government officials are telling the public that they can't access their own public building.
That's right.
And so I think it needs to go away. I believe. I mean, I don't know why it would still be in effect. There's no teeth behind it, and it ended up getting Robert Walker. The whole arrest issue stems from something that shouldn't even been in place in the first place.
Well, and I got to tell you, I would hope that his defense attorney is paying enough attention to hear where this ordinance is from, or where this supposed ordinance is from, and be able to actually use that to put this case to rest. Because if you're this whole thing stemmed from a rule that the maintenance man put in place in 2010, and Robert Walker was arrested over that. I mean, let that sink in, Dove, that the maintenance guy had a guy arrested. I mean, that's way over the board. But getting back to this motion, this next item in item 6, this is where she begins to argue this constraint that it has to be narrowly construed. And once again, those of you that have been watching, Jill's term of narrowly construed meant Justin and I. It didn't mean that there wasn't certain activities that couldn't happen. There wasn't a blanket order by the judge that said X, Y, and Z is not allowed by the press. No, it was just that person A and person B were not allowed.
And that's what's one of the most amazing things about this entire thing. And the whole thing is really amazing as you read through it. But this one in particular is because she's supposed to be a lawyer, and she either does not understand what that means, or she's specifically twisting it to try and try and discriminate against people. Either way, it's entirely unacceptable. It makes me wonder where she went to law school. I have a feeling that she's just incompetent and really thinks that what she's saying there is her understanding of narrowly tailoring something because it's restricted to specific people, me and you, and she doesn't see how that in itself is discrimination. She, in fact, thinks that's constitutional because it's narrowly tailored. Well, so she's going to say not only just 2 people, but 2 press people can't come in here. Every other press that's going to cover it a different way, they can come in, but these 2 guys, in their way, they're going to cover it. No, they can't come in. It's like, come on.
Well, and she even names the other press. She even names the other press, talking about how, those that are respectful and follow our rules and things like this, they're allowed, but other people, those press that don't accept our bullshit questions or bullshit answers, and those press that ask the deeper questions, we don't want them bothering us so much, so that we don't want them allowed. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, and if there's one takeaway from anybody that watches this and comes across this is just that. I mean, just think about that. Just think about that. That if you were having a trial and the prosecuting attorney was trying to keep in let in her press and then also keep out the press that she didn't want in there. I mean, that's just something that I just don't think can happen in America. And I just don't think there's any reason for that, because, the only one story is going to be spun and allowed, and it's going to come, she's basically gatekeeping what press can get in there, and therefore gatekeeping what stories, because if she really didn't have a problem with other stories on this getting out, then she'd be perfectly fine with everybody getting in there.
Yep.
And if you're standing trial, I mean, I would hope that you would want anybody to come and watch a public trial, to get the word out there that it's not just mainstream. It's not just basically the government armed, the government sanctioned media that's reporting on this. It really has, I know this gets said a lot, but it really has like some Korean kind of North Korean feeling to it, where the government is saying that, no, we don't want all of the free press in here. Yeah. And then in doing it in such an outrageous way of trying to use the actual Constitution in terms of narrowly tailoring something to restrict the press to specific people. It's really unbelievable. Makes me wonder where she went to law school. If anybody's watching and they know, or they looked it up, that'd be really cool, because I mean, just talk about retarded. I don't know what to call it.
Well, and Doc, I want to address this because Lion brings up a good point. Jill does need sued, but here's the thing: the rules are set up because Justin and I have consulted legal about some of this, and I mean, how interested are civil attorneys in bringing a case on what's happened so far, Justin?
Well, civil attorneys are never really interested in anything like this. They're never really interested, and if they are interested, they won't, because they're just cowards, more or less. What I've seen.
But I'm talking about specifically bringing a case against Jill for what's happened here. What is it that keeps them from doing that? Because it really is something that I think needs to start happening. Because if we can't hold them criminally accountable, because it seems like, to me, this should be a criminally accountable situation, but it seems like we're unable to do that.
Oh, well, we just have to have patience. It's gonna play out.
Well, it definitely is going to play out in this case. And actually, as a result of this, there's been a disciplinary committee complaint submitted, and that's something that we're going to probably be trying to publicize a little bit more about, not necessarily the specific complaint, but the process itself, because there's enough attorneys out there that have things going on that I'm running into the fact that it's just that people don't know that these resources are available. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit more.
And this just overall, just undermines the trust in these people and these institutions. So I mean, aside from any legal stuff that can happen, I mean, one of the things, and that's why we're sitting down wanting to talk about this right now, is we want to get the word out there. I want to let people know that this stuff like this is really happening, and the end result of that will be an undermining of trust in the system, and hopefully, that'll cause people to want to look at that system that they don't trust with a microscope now. And
now you guys see where my mouse is there? Huh? You see where my mouse is there? This is an attorney who is a prosecutor who routinely has to turn over affidavits to the press because they are a part of the public record. She's saying here in this document that probable cause affidavits are not part of the public record. And that's exactly what the public record is that the press requests. Chris Condi around here with the Lawrence Journal World has mine, from the case that I'm involved in.
Yep, she's trying everything. She's trying to say everything, hope something sticks.
Yep. Now, you were talking about the restrictions that they're placing and the way that she's framing it with us. Let's go back and take a look at the sheriff's office, because at the sheriff's office, and Deputy Love tried hard, and let just everybody, so that y'all know, there's your old Deputy Love, and his CPOST certification number is 23780. So if you need to file a complaint, that's his number. But old Deputy Love has tried to explain this to us several times and couldn't quite get it right.
Yeah, we'd like to see the sheriff, please.
Okay, I need to see both
IDs?
No, ma'am, we'd like to see the sheriff, please.
Okay, you don't get to do nothing unless I get to see your ID.
Ma'am, we're citizens of the state of Kansas, and we're here to do open records work.
Every citizen that goes in the foyer has to give me their ID.
No, ma'am, that's not the way the law works.
Well, I don't know whose law you're talking about.
Ma'am, we just saw the sheriff pull up. Would you please ask him to come out and speak with us?
Did not see you. No, you didn't.
Can I get a call request form, please? Definitely don't have to get my ID for that.
The person in there was also demanding our ID to even talk to the sheriff.
Well, the sheriff is not in the county.
I understand. I don't have a problem with that.
It is his policy that anybody comes in has to provide ID so they can check and see if there's any wants or wants form before they come in.
Okay, so that brings me to my next point. Can I see those policies? I'd like to.
There again, I'm sure we have them. I don't know where they're at, but if I can find them, I'll get them for you.
Okay, we'll wait. So you don't have a policy manual that you
We
can
do,
refer to?
but I do not have it. It is not in our possession. It is in the possession of the county attorney as we speak.
So it's not electronic at all?
Not to my knowledge.
So you are not able to reference a policy here in the sheriff's department if you needed to right now?
Yes,
You are able to?
through verbal communication with the sheriff.
Just through the sheriff? But you can't actually reference the written policy here at the sheriff's department?
If I needed to reference a written policy, I could make contact with the county attorney and she could tell me what I needed to know.
Did you have to give your IDs in here?
Yeah,
Really? Do you know what they do with those?
scan them.
For what?
I don't know.
They actually scanned them?
I'm sure.
Hmm.
I don't know what they do here.
Yeah. And that's a seizure of your Fourth Amendment rights.
As long as I ain't sitting back there and clanking, I really don't care what they do.
Well, that's how you get your rights taken away.
Well, they told us that they take your ID and they run it for warrants too. So I mean, I'm not saying you have a warrant or anything, but you could find yourself sitting back there if you surrender your ID because they do that shit.
Yeah, what's your name?
I'm Susan.
Susan?
Yeah.
Your position?
I'm dispatch supervisor.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Susan. Appreciate it.
And now, number one, you can see there that even in the light of the violations that we were experiencing, we were professional and calm with people and treating people with respect. So all her lies about how we were acting are seriously just lies. That's all they are. And it's, in my opinion, I think what she's doing is the same thing that what we saw in that video. And that's kind of why I wanted to tie this in, because Joe is telling us that the policy exists, but he can't show it. Jill is telling us that all these things happen, but she can't show them. And she also talks about these rules that don't exist. And what I'm finding is, and we heard it with Carrie when we talked about the smaller counties and how everybody's related and things like that. It's kind of hard to get around those things, but it's not hard to get around the fact that when you start losing your rights and they start slipping away, it just continues, because we've got a policy from 2010 that has stripped Fourth Amendment rights. And now we've got a sheriff in the sheriff's department who is stripping your Fourth Amendment rights. And now we have a county attorney who is basically violating all that's sanctimonious about her profession when she lies and makes up details in court that didn't exist. They've all just been doing this for so long this way and gotten away with it that it's just become normal part of their day. It's the narrative that we spin to take care of the problems that we have.
Yeah, it's criminal, or it should be criminal.
Well, it's a conspiracy. And if I've ever seen a situation, and I've always, I've talked to people about the 18 codes, was it USC 242 and 241, the conspiracy codes. And attorneys will tell you those are real hard to make because they require so much burden of proof to get over the hurdles. But in a situation like what's going on in Elk County, it's kind of hard to be anything but a conspiracy.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, her criminally lying like this in court, should be a crime. I mean, if we lied on somebody like that, try and get some charges brought against them or some kind of consequence.
It would be perjury. And we would go to jail for contempt or something of that nature.
We were straight up lying, like we were fabricating the whole thing like she is here. It'd be an issue. And I got to say one other thing, sadly, I think it's a prevailing attitude of, those guys that we were talking to sitting in the waiting room of the jail right there was, hey, as long as I ain't sitting back there, it's fine with me. The clerk who we like, and she's cool, professional, only professional one up there. She herself said she don't have a problem with the scanning in, and I don't think it's just a prevalent attitude there in Elk County. I think it's just everywhere. I think people think as long as there's not some kind of extreme consequence attached to it in that moment, that they're fine with it. And we saw that full-fledged during COVID, where we'd surrender all these other things for the convenience aspect of it. So it's like, well, I'll surrender my ID to get in here as long as, I ain't on the other side of that. Well, where do you draw the line? And also the way that they're running those IDs for warrants, they very easily could find themselves on their side, if you had a warrant. But, and so I just think that, and the other thing that, we ended up finding out in that policy manual as well is you see how that when we're in the sheriff's department there, they're demanding our ID and we can't even speak to the sheriff unless we present our IDs. That's not even a policy. Just like their supposed policy to get into the courthouse, that ID in the sheriff's department does not exist. That's just something that they've said. And thank God, you had two people that understand our rights and went in there and challenged that stuff. So hopefully we can get that stuff to go away, because you got these people, they're just operating in the shadow of darkness, basically. And when there's no light shining on it by the people, they get to do these outrageous things, and the citizens just go along with it because they're like, oh, you know what? It ain't no big deal, man. As long as I'm on the other side. Well, it's not a big deal, but it's a matter of, does it violate our rights or not? And that in itself is a big deal. And it's like, are you American or not? What's going on here, people? Are you American or not? Why does that not upset you in any way? I don't get that.
Yep. And I want to speak directly to those ones because they've been on Facebook, and there's that lady that goes to the commission meetings that acts like, well, she was the one this week that said everybody understood what their revenue neutral rate was. But in other weeks, she's been somebody who would thank the commissioners for everything that they're doing and appreciate them so much, and not even be realizing how wrong some of the things are that's going on, because she's on the other side of it. She's not affected by it. And is that it, that she's just not affected by it? Or is she ignorant of it because of some bias? I don't know, but there's a lot of people in Elk County right now that are acting like we are the problem. Yeah, and the reality is we wouldn't be there if your citizens didn't have a problem. And we're reaching out to other people because I'll be honest right now, the number of people from Elk County who have reached out to us about things and shared just little things of information. Some of it's something we can track down, other parts of it, stuff that's a little more difficult. But the reality is there's a lot of stuff and a lot of people that have come out of the woodwork and said, hey, we've got a problem here. And there's a big pushback down there. And I'm trying to figure out that pushback. Why is there so many people down there that are willing to let these violations continue to happen, even though half the population down there is standing up and saying, no, we're kind of tired of this. Just for example, this week, a former sheriff, remind me, Janet Harrington.
Yep.
She came to the meeting and literally talked like a parent to those commissioners, like they were children, and how ashamed she was of the way they're behaving, and talked to them about the constitutional classes. And as a commissioner and as an elected official, you do have to attend COMA and CORA classes. That's the open meetings and open records rules. You have to attend basic classes to understand that you can't violate rights, and you're going to swear an oath to that when you take office. And I'm afraid, Justin, I don't think they take that oath seriously enough.
Nope, they don't. She looked like she was scolding 3 schoolboys that got their hand caught in a cookie jar, because that's exactly what had happened. They had been caught shutting down speech inside those meetings, and so she came in and to remind them that they are there to, abide by the Constitution. And it was great. It was really great.
And the thing is if she can do it, I mean, this is a person who can go in there and talk facts to their leaders. She needs the support of the other people around there that believe the same. That if you do see the problem, you're going to have to start going in there and saying, hey, we have a problem. The couple that was in there yesterday that were asking questions about the ad valorem tax, I'm afraid they probably would have been poo-pooed and pushed away and not really gotten any of their answers had we not been there.
Yeah, no doubt. One other thing that I want to add about what you were talking about, how we're viewed as the problem there, the bad guys there. In that meeting yesterday during a recess, we exposed one of the sheriff's deputies in a lie right there in front of that citizen that you were just talking about, and she still was backing them and still thought we were the problem, still thought we were the bad guy. So even exposing these people lying, it was lying about what county the deputy had worked in out in California, and she said, I don't remember what county I worked in. And that again that's evidence. So if you were like, oh man, who do I want to back in this? You know,
it's funny. I didn't add her picture. I didn't add her picture to this because I didn't expect we'd be talking about it. But Justin, you're talking about Kelly Young. Okay. She's an Elk County deputy. We got to talking to her inside the meeting, and she seemed nice enough. You know, she represents pretty decently. But when I asked her where she had the experience from, she talked about California, and I asked her, well, what county, you know? And well, I don't remember. And, you know, wasn't really firm on how long ago it had been, and not you know, it's been so long ago that I can't remember. And then turns out it's only been like 3 years ago. And looking up in her records, she just came here last year. So it's not like she's earlier this year, I'm sorry. But it's not like she's fresh and couldn't remember that. But then she did remember it. And the thing you're pointing out is true. Is yeah, law enforcement, I guess they're allowed to lie to us. But why? That right there wasn't a lie in progress of an investigation or something to seek additional information. That was just being surreptitious and lying for no reason.
Being uncooperative, thinking that we are somehow being adversarial towards her because we're asking. And that's the thing. Like, it was an innocent question. It was an innocent conversation. We weren't like up in her grill demanding anything. We were across the room just saying, oh, what county did you work in there? And she's like, oh, I don't remember. And it's like, come on, why do you have to be like that? I mean,
and when she said she don't remember, I'm like, well, it must have been Mendocino County, huh? Since you can't remember. But now here's the thing, and I want to say this, and Kelly, if you're watching it, I want to point this out, and I want to make this statement for all those law enforcement officers out there that may be watching it or may get wind of this. Kelly, I did sign up with California CPOST today. I registered an account with them just so that I could register and get your CPOST records and your CPOST training documents. And honestly, had you just told me what county you were from and been cool, I probably wouldn't have spent the time on it because I've got plenty of other stuff to do. But when you did that and you made it a point to try to hide something, you caused suspicion and you cause us to not trust you. And that's something that you guys need to quit playing with. You need to quit playing around with the public trust, because when we don't trust you, you don't get the help of the public that you need to support the position that you're in. And you guys all cry that you don't have the support of the public. Well, you need to freaking support us too. So when I get your records, I'm going to go ahead and publish them so everybody in Elk County can know exactly what kind of deputy you are, what you've been trained to do, and things like that. But just remember that for going down the road, and the rest of you guys out there, just be straight with people. Don't give us reason to suspect you.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It does nothing but undermine the trust. Just like with this motion here, it's just another lie exposed on their side, and it just goes back to what we were talking about there. And it's like, we're still viewed as the bad guys. Mm-hmm. We got a lady that's saying we're doing all these awful things, and if we were the bad guys, pull all that stuff up. Then you can go online, pull all that stuff up if you want to, but that shit don't exist. You're not going to catch us in lies about this stuff. We're just pointing the camera and letting them fucking lie, and somehow we're still the bad guys. It's amazing. It's like, come on, people, wake up a little bit here.
Let's go ahead and discuss the 4 C's, man. A dreaded accountability original.
Yeah. Yep. You got courage, confidence, conviction, and a camera.
That's right. And a camera. The 4 C's. Don't leave home without them.
It's just something we talk about when we think about, what it really takes to start to hold people accountable in this fashion. And I think it starts with having conviction. You got to have beliefs, and you got to hold on to them. You got to feel like your beliefs are worth defending. and they're not going to be bent, and they're not going to be swayed, and they're not going to be blown about by any kind of, you know, current trend or anything like that. So you have to have the conviction of that, and that's what I talk about. We need to start being like more American, feeling like more American, and having conviction in our rights and how important they are. And then the other things will flow from that. You'll have the confidence, and you'll have the courage to go out and do it. And it'll just feed itself. You'll get the courage and the confidence as you grow from your convictions. But all that goes out the window if you don't have a camera. So you got to record it all. And that's what we're talking about here.
Because all the courage, confidence, and commitment and everything that you can have, it's not going to save you from the lies that they're going to tell in court. And Jill really rounded this thing out in towards the end of it when she started asking us to pay for costs. She wanted us to pay for changes of venue and delays in the trial, the costs of extra security, all kinds of stuff with these false accusations that she put in this thing.
So basically she's asking for a punishment or consequences without any due process. She wants us to have to dip into our pocketbooks and pay for these costs that she's saying are happening without us being found guilty of anything, without us being able to say anything. But the good point that Michael is making there, you know, if this stuff's not recorded, then, you know,
she would have got away with this.
It's a different
She would have
story.
literally got away with this if we didn't have that live stream and have the recordings of what actually happened. When she requested this non-dissemination order and started talking about the attorney and demanding constrictions on the attorney and how he was going to access evidence, I think that's a clear line that she crossed, because all of this was brought about with lies in the first place. We've already discussed all the underlying lies above this. But when she starts accusing another officer of the court, I mean, you got to think that the attorneys themselves that review these complaints and things like that are going to recognize that as a problem.
You would hope so. Yeah, you would hope so.
So she talks about the not any approval of recording of the hearings. Now, I want to remind you that we've never wanted to go in and record the hearings. And as a matter of fact, when we were there yesterday, there was a hearing going on in the courtroom while we were there. And we pointed that out and said we didn't have any desire to go in the courtroom and that the judge could properly restrict that. So it's obvious that we're staying within the laws. And here's where she talks about the medical records again being something that we can't disseminate, but we didn't have them. She wants all the delays and continuances charged to the defense. Now, I want to point out something here. She had the discovery, some of that medical information and everything since April, and she withheld that and then tried to blame it on us. And now she wants to charge a delay or continuance to the defense. And right now, if I remember right, one of the continuance, the reason for the continuance that Mr. House enunciated was that he hadn't had time to review any of this discovery that she hadn't provided. So there's a compounding violation that I guess I didn't even catch the compounding nature of that when I wrote out the complaint, but she's asking the court to further sanction him in other ways that aren't direct.
Yeah. She's causing the delay that she wants him to pay for and take responsibility for.
Right.
And,
right.
You know, that goes in line with, you know, the timeline of all of this stuff in terms of the medical records. So she had medical records from one of the officers in April of this year. And this is what she talked about in that online Zoom pretrial hearing. So she got that in April. And she's trying to say that, you know, at that time, then that deputy said he didn't want to give any more medical records over to her because they had been released to the public and he was hesitant to do that. Well, the thing about that is it doesn't add up to the timeline, because Kansas Freedom News didn't start reporting on that until June, and Michael as well. And then we started going there in July. So whatever she's talking about with medical records even being leaked, we hadn't even become aware of the case in order for this deputy to go to her and say that he was worried about these things being leaked. It's another one of her lies that just doesn't match up in the overall, you know, timeline of the story on this.
Right. And the reality is the medical records that she's claiming that we released were actually released in open court by her during her questioning of Eric Watts.
Yeah. The only thing I know of any kind of medical issue is just from what I watched on that court proceeding, and I don't know anything about any medical records at all or anything like that. And so I still don't, we never had those records.
Well, and I want to just give a little snippet here. I went out and pulled it up. Give me just a second. I'll bring that up here, but it's the testimony that when Eric Watts was on the stand and he was explaining all of his medical details. I mean, clearly everything about his details from the past, what doctors he'd been to, what different clinics he'd been to, what the diagnoses were. He went through the whole thing, man. And just a little snippet of this is all it's going to take for people to.
And see, I ain't even seen this one. The only one I've ever seen is that pre-trial one where she talks about having the record. So I'm not even aware of any kind of medical issues.
With another deputy.
No, this
yes,
is
ma'am.
This is the
And
preliminary.
Did you
here.
arrive to help with the situation?
Yes, I was called into for support for the deputy that was already dealing with Mr. Walker.
And had there already been any struggles by the time you arrived?
That I can't testify to that. I didn't see any struggle with Deputy Bliss prior to me arriving. I arrived at the jail when I first came in contact. Screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of belligerent talk, a lot of.
Okay. And what was broken while the incident happened?
I believe I was trying to get him in a chair.
Is this the injury to your hand?
Yes, ma'am. That would be yes.
And is this your arm as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is pictures prepared by Deputy Bliss.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely accurate.
Okay. And did you have medical studies of the injury to your back?
I did. Throughout my time with the doctor, helping them out with getting me fixed up, was sent to the hospital in Winfield and had an MRI done on my back.
And
here's everything we know about the MRI, guys.
The MRI?
I had a complete disassociation between the disc, my L3 and L4, and agitation to the discs, nerve pain where it went over my right hip, and I was down for quite a while. Still down.
And are you awaiting surgery for that injury?
I'm in California time. I have an appointment the 22nd, which they're going to refer me to a orthopedic and neurosurgeon.
Okay. And are you requiring surgery to repair the damage from this incident?
Yes.
Did you help download the video from the security cameras at the sheriff's office?
All right, I'll go ahead and stop that there. But I mean, you heard him, and I'll just point out that the surgery that he was awaiting that surgery prior to this. And you can, if you want to go watch that whole video, I believe that one's at Meg's Crime Watch. But in the video, they talk about him having prior injuries and being under medical care for several years for a back injury and having even shots of some sort, injections into his back. But I mean, there you go. He's talking about all the injuries right there. They disclose the MRI. They're talking about where he's gone for care. And this is the information that Gillette has accused us of releasing to everybody.
Yeah, in the actual form of these medical records, whatever shape she says that would take. So she said we're actually in possession of the medical records themselves and then disseminated it out there. Not just talked about what they talked about, but actually had the records and put them out there.
Right.
Complete fabrication.
Yeah, exactly.
And then look at that last one there on H. That's one of the most notable ones there, where it says a suitable fine against the actors Richard Smith, Kansas Freedom News, Michael Aravi, Lawrence Accountability, and Justin Speece. And she can't put the dreaded rabble rouser behind that like she gives your guys'
Well, that you're a doctor in air quotes too. So
yeah, and she doesn't call me doctor at any other point throughout there. Let's see, it's just Justin Spies, man.
Yeah.
But look at that. So she wants us, the judge, to fine us based just on what she said right there. Because she says it and it's true, is what basically the argument is.
And she has the confidence that he's going to do it when she goes in there.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if she thinks that he'd actually, I don't know.
I think that some judges might. I'm glad that Judge Ricky didn't. I mean,
Right.
and actually he basically told her to, pound dirt as far as all of her arguments on press, because
that's the thing. Like, that's the impression I got from him, is that he wouldn't go for it. That's why I'm like, she's probably just so stupid and thinks in her mind that she's got this flawless argument and she's got her positional title behind her, and therefore he's going to believe it. Not taking into account how outrageous it all is, and not taking into account that the judge seems like that he would be able to see this. I don't know. That's what it seemed like.
Yep. Pretty much the rest of this, she talks about all the different times that they'd talked to the defense, and then how they'd impressed upon them how they had to control other people and they had to be responsible for things that weren't their control. I mean, honestly, there wasn't anything Robert Walker was going to do to stop me after I saw that arrest. I mean, I was coming to Elk County, and it didn't matter what he said.
Right. No different than let's say KCTV5 wanted to go out there and report it. And you don't even have to be in your capacity as a reporter. You could just be a citizen that's like, what the fuck's going on here? I want to see what's going on here. And you can be both at once, Right. And so for her, it's just another instance of trying to control, for whatever reason.
Well, I think right here we might have a little bit of the reason. This is the part in the document where she argues that the medical records, the reason that they hadn't turned them over since April was because they were afraid that we were going to disclose them. And now this is where that timeline comes into play that you started talking about earlier, how she's accusing us of going to disclose records that she had retained this whole time, and that she can't turn them over because we're going to put them out in the public eye. But we weren't even involved in this. You weren't involved until July. I didn't even see anything about it until probably the last week of June, when Dick over at Kansas Freedom News put out some information about it, and he had emailed me a couple times, and I got a moment to look at it. And then 10 days later, we're in Elk County. I mean, there's not many cases that have got our attention that way. And
right.
So
yeah, it's like, if we would have been aware of it, earlier in the timeline, we would have been in Elk County earlier. It's not like we were aware of it and then sat on it and then went up there. As soon as we knew about it, we're like, all right, that day works for us. We're going up there. And it was very soon afterwards, because
she did sit on it.
It's that messed up of an arrest that I wanted to go up there and see what was going on up there.
But she sat on the evidence, and then she tried to, after the fact, and I think that's a little bit of the motivation behind these lies and the way this motion was argued in court, is that she thought that she could blame us for her delays in discovery and get herself off the hook, because she wants the defense to be charged for any delays. She wants monetary compensation for everything, and she wants us to be fined as well. I mean, she has screwed up the discovery process, and not only does she want to blame it on us, but she wants us to pay dearly for it.
And I think that's a good point. I think that you could see that in the pretrial as well, as when she's talking about, she said that she got the medical records a while back, and the judge held her feet to the fire. He came back to it and he said, Miss Gillette, I'm going to need a little bit more of a solid answer than a while back. Right. And she's like, sometime in April. And so it just seems like one of those things, like if you got in possession of medical records, that you should know the exact date of it. And not be afraid to put it out there. Like, she shouldn't have said a while back. She could have said a while back on April for whatever day it was. But it seems like she's trying to, make it look like that there isn't this big delay they can pinpoint to an exact date that she started, holding on to this stuff and not turning it over like she should have, which was causing the delay and all that.
Right. And then as we go on down on this thing, let me get that pulled back up over here. I love this little statement right here at the crossover of the page. It was made super clear. You see that? It was made super clear. I mean, I don't know that I've seen that in a court document before. It was made super clear.
I know, isn't that something? That's
I mean,
so unprofessional. It's like ditzy Valley Girl kind of, or young generation speaking stuff. It's not to be taken seriously.
Yeah,
and she should know that. She should know that.
And she wants the court to stop all of our menacing and harassing behavior here at the last. That's what she's asking Judge Ricky to do. We're down to the end of that thing. The insane part about what she did here with this, she put her career on the line, Justin.
Well, I hope it ruins her career.
Well, I mean, attorneys can be disbarred for a single act.
As she should be. As she should be.
We've got a list of them in that motion, though.
Yeah.
And she's blaming, I don't know if Todd, I haven't really been watching the chat, and I apologize for that, guys. I get engrossed in this stuff, but I'm watching it now for a second. But Todd and Clinton Hansen, I know you were in here earlier, and Andrew Cook were all mentioned as part of the people that she wanted sanctions against as well. And so there's what, 5, 6 different parties that she's attacking here. And why can't we do something about that other than an ODA complaint?
And exactly. And her intent behind this one of the consequences of that will be she's trying to ruin our lives. If these things come about, these are life altering kind of things that she's doing. Happens all the time to people in the criminal justice system. And so what's fair is fair. If she's going to try and ruin our lives, she's doing something wrong, then, hopefully it is ruled that way, and she's no longer allowed to practice law. If she's going to be trying to use
practice it, if she's going to practice it that way, you damn right. I don't think that she should be practicing law.
Yeah, for sure.
And doggone it, I didn't want to run into a hiccup, but I was trying to locate the actual document. Hello, we've got a little bit of stormy storms coming through.
Yep.
Guys, I'm going to go out and I'm going to grab this actual complaint that I filed, and we'll go through a little bit of that. I'm not going to show you the whole thing because some of it has information on it that really shouldn't be put out. But complaint form, here's the narrative for this. And let me get back over and we'll put that up. All right, so there's a form that goes with this that was prepared that has all the information as far as contact information, witnesses, and things like this. But this is basically a prepared narrative for the complaint, and it goes through pretty much this entire matter. And the horrible thing about this is that Robert Walker is stuck in the middle of this thing with an attorney behaving this way in a case that shouldn't even really be there, in my opinion. But
and he's got serious charges. These are serious charges he's facing, serious felonies.
Yeah.
It's more than just disorderly conduct at this point.
Mm-hmm. And so the one thing I wanted to bring this up and show and to make a point about is this is something that I've had to learn over time, and the docs kind of helped me with a little of this, is that when you're making a complaint and dealing with these agencies and places like CPOST, places like the Office of Disciplinary Administrator, places even like your local police department and your local complaint departments and things like that, you've got to stick with the facts and take all the emotion out of it. And what I've tried to do here in this is just go line by line through her complaint. And she's just told so many lies that it took literally 4 pages to get it done, to isolate all the different lies that she told through this complaint. We'd been accused of getting police officers killed in prior interest cases, give them evidence. We put all this in Dropbox folders for them. And by the time all this is done, you guys are going to have access to all of that. Most of it you already do. But the most important thing to do is identify the rules that they violated. You know, and there are rules that exist out there, and it's the Kansas Rules of Professional Conduct, and it talks about how the lawyers have to conduct themselves, and if they violate these rules, they can be sanctioned. What are some of those sanctions, Doc? I know one of them is disbarment, but they can be what? Suspended or what?
Reprimanded, yeah, and basically have a mark, you know, following. Yeah, and one other thing that I want to talk about, that you mentioned it, but it's important for people that maybe are starting out and are wanting to write their own complaints, is you had mentioned there to find the rules that they violated. So in Kansas here, you could just hop online, like Michael said, he mentioned that, but it's through the Kansas Supreme Court. They set the rules, and there's a lot of them. And so don't get overwhelmed by it. Kind of hone in your search. If you, like, for example, if it was an unprofessional, they have specific rules that talk about professional conduct of attorneys. And so you can start to look through the rules. Now, not every rule is going to apply, but you find the ones that do. And then once you find that rule, you know, you get it into the complaint, and that's where you can start to take Michael's got it up on the screen right there. Yep. And you can start to take the emotion out of how you're writing it, because you're going strictly by what they did fact-wise to violate whatever rule it is that they've written up here for you to see if they violated it or not.
And so some of the ones that I talked about was Rule 3.1, meritorious claims and contentions. And it says that a lawyer shall not bring or defend a proceeding or assert or controvert an issue therein unless there's a good faith basis for doing so that's not frivolous, which includes a good faith argument for changes. And what she was arguing for was changes to the status quo of the hearing proceedings. She wanted extra security, all these other things, sanctions against us, and then all the delays charged. She misrepresented that, and that's a violation of this Rule 3.1. And we isolated 3.3, the candor toward the tribunal. She's misrepresenting details. She's making false statements of law and then offering evidence that the lawyer knows to be false. I mean, these are clear rules that are easy to locate. And all of these, when I got down to the end of it, they were all covered under 8.4, which was to violate or attempt to violate the rules of professional conduct. I mean, she basically did that in a number of different ways. I don't know any other way to put it, but all this stuff is accessible out there, and we're working on things to try to make it more available to people, but it's out there if you have the interest to go look it up. The difficult part about it is trying to understand it and try to work through it to do it from the beginning. I've been telling people this for a little while now, that when they try to separate third-party advocates and third-party people from the processes, what they're doing is taking away the experience, because a lot of the third parties are people like you and I who've had experiences with the legal process, and we've learned things. And yeah, we're not attorneys, and I don't claim to be an attorney, but I do give some advice from time to time about how to handle situations and where to find documents and things like that.
Yeah, and filing a complaint doesn't require an attorney to do it, and it doesn't require you to have attorney level knowledge. I mean, it's simple. It could seem overwhelming to get up off the ground, but it's simple once you get into it and look through the rules and then write it up. Anybody can do it. If you have any issues with any attorneys, anybody can do it. But of course, I only have familiarity with Kansas. Maybe it's different somewhere else, but here in Kansas, pretty straightforward. Now, on the other side of it, the review process, you know, just like anything, it's all out of our hands. It's whatever, you know, it is.
Well, and just like with yours with Seiden, you know, you sent in the complaint about the way Seiden acted. What was it, late January, early February, when he came out filming you? He made the choice to come out and do all that.
Yeah.
And the Office of the Disciplinary Administrator pretty much said that you kind of created that.
Yep. That I filed that complaint. So I filed 2 complaints against Seiden. That was the first one because he came out filming, like you just said, and it didn't even make it to an investigation. They dismissed it and said that not only did Seiden not do anything wrong by that, but that he also that I had caused the reason for him to go get the police involved in it. And talk about undermining the trust in the system, and I'm just like, really? Me going in there, sitting there as calm as can be, asking him just questions, and then also filling out some paperwork, what it was enough of a justification for him to get the police involved in the eyes of the ODA there. Really, seriously. And it makes you wonder then if they would have taken that complaint more seriously and disciplined him for the unprofessional conduct that he had. I mean, he was trying his hardest to prevent me from just accessing the public building, accessing core requests. He was doing everything he could to stop that. He was being rude to me, all that stuff. If they would have taken that seriously, you know, come June, he dresses up like me.
That might not have happened.
It might not have happened. He loses his job. I submitted an ODA complaint on that. Now, those have been assigned to investigation. Those have been assigned. But the first one, you know, who knows? That could have prevented it right there. But, you know, so that's just the way it went, and everything goes the way it does for a reason. That's just how it goes.
Everything goes the way it does for a reason. I'm not sure that I've been able to figure out the reasons.
Well, Sutton got fired, man. He's out of his job, so fuck him. Well, it worked out. Fuck him, and I guess those ODA people, you know, looking out for their buddy attorneys, fucking cost him, because he needed to be taught a consequence for his behavior, and they weren't willing to do that to their attorney buddy, and he really fucked up to a point where they couldn't overlook it, and it's just beautiful. So fuck him.
Yep. Now, Dustin, I'm going to go back to this real quick because I know that we wanted to talk about this for a minute.
Right. And do you have that video of when we were asking Jill Gillette as she's going in the elevator about stuff, and she wanted to charge us with stalking?
I don't have the video queued up, but
right,
I think most people watching have probably seen it.
Right. So what had happened is I think we went back up to Elk County 2 weeks after July 9th. So it's like the end of July. We went up there and we went to the county commission meeting, and then we went upstairs to Jill Gillette's office to try and talk to her, because we had since then, they had tried to say that they were going to press charges on me and Michael for interfering with the public duties or something like that in the courthouse or something along those lines. So we went up there to talk to her, and she wasn't in the office, but her and Deputy Joe Love just happened to come walking by, go into the office, come back out of the office. Me and Michael just follow him over to the elevator, and as we're following him, Jill Gillette says, she's calling back to us saying, "Stop following me, stop harassing me, or I'll have you charged with stalking." And I'm like, stalking? Really, lady? And so and I was gonna talk about this last time at the county commission meeting, but they stopped me from speaking because I used some cuss words that they didn't like, so I didn't get to talk about this, because I was gonna let them know that their DA either doesn't understand the law again, or is using it as trying to use it to scare us away. But if you go down, so this is stalking, and overall, none of it applies to what we were doing in terms of we weren't causing her to fear for her safety or the safety of a member of her family, as number one says there. But if you go to down below, there's another number one. And it says right here, this course of conduct means 2 or more acts over a period of time. So, you know, that was the first time we'd ever seen her. So that goes out the window. However short, which evidence a continuity of purpose. But a course of conduct shall not include constitutionally protected activity nor conduct that was necessary to accomplish a legitimate purpose independent of making contact with the targeted person. So first of all, is constitutionally protected us going up to her and asking her, because we, you know, in our role as trying to disseminate information as press, citizen press, but also specifically, she was trying to make up charges against us for stuff that had happened there, specific to us. So we were asking her about it. It was a legitimate reason why we were asking her about it, and she's trying to say we're stalking her. So going and asking these public officials things that concern you and your life and your livelihood, your reputation, is now fucking stalking. And it goes back to that Sidon video where he just wanted me to always just send it via email. It's the same thing, because if you show up, then you're stalking them. If you show up, then there's a reason they need to get the police involved. It's like there's got to be this distance and this barrier between us at all times, according to them. It's fucking bullshit.
Well,
you can show up and ask questions if you want to. Fuck her.
That's not any different than what Courtney Shipley did. And when we had that 60-day ban that she put on me, was that she claimed that me being outside as the commissioners were leaving the meeting, asking them questions, filming them and talking to them as they walked out to go to their car, that was stalking somehow.
Right. Fucking bullshit. Fucking bullshit. And she wouldn't do that to Chris Condi at LJ World if he sat out there and waited for her to do an interview.
No, but remember, Chris Condi's the one that said, "Are you Cone? Is this California?"
And so what that does is it tightens their control over the narrative. So then that's a deterrent not to have other regular people just show up and want to ask them questions. So the only people that are granted access to ask them questions are these journalists that they know are doing the fucking bidding for them. Everybody else sees it like, oh, if you get close to them, they're going to see you as a threat and they're going to fucking charge you with stalking. Then you have a fucking record. They're all doing it as these deterrents to keep the light, a different light being shined on what they're doing in their duties. And it needs to stop.
If you look at every prosecution that we've talked about or been party to or talked about with friends online, look at Rabbit and his prosecution. It was about a threat. That he was some sort of a threat to them.
Well, they try to turn speech into conduct, speech into behavior, but the Constitution is clear about that. Speech cannot be twisted into behavior. It is not conduct. It is words. It is totally fucking different. And they do it every single time. They make us into the boogeyman, that it's not our speech, is that we were acting a certain way. And therefore they're justified to get us out of there. Therefore they're justified to prevent us from asking them fucking questions.
There's Rabbit. And you're right, Rabbit. They're scared of your words. They're scared of our words. They're scared of everybody's words. And that's the problem, is there's not enough people that'll stand up. And
well, I'll tell you what it is. And we learned that at the DA's forum that one time, so leading up to this primary election, they were having these DA forums and I would go to them and everyone would clap after the DAs fucking responded. Well, I started booing when Suzanne Valdez was done answering the question, and everyone in the room, they tried to throw me the fuck out. They're like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Well, you guys are cheering for him. Why can't I boo for him? We only get to cheer for him." But what ended up happening at that second DA forum after I was booing and they all confronted me and said I couldn't do it, is a couple of old ladies in the back started booing as well. And so what we figured out is, the reason why they want to shut down the words is because it'll get other people. That first person can encourage the second and third and fourth person. So we got to get that first person out of there with their words, because our words have the power to instill that courage and that confidence and set that example that other people go, you know what, if they're booing, I'm going to boo too. So yeah, boo. And it feels good. And then you start to get a snowball, and these government officials got to prevent that at all fucking costs. So the ones that stand up with their word right now, they're done for. They go after them at all costs.
Oh yeah. Well, because look what happens. You get one in there, then they become two, and next thing you know, they're three, and then there's a real problem.
They can't have that. And as soon as we figure that out, in terms of like actually showing up and booing in person, instead of just doing it here online, I think we'll start to be a force to be reckoned with. When more people see what it takes to actually show up and just confront these people with our words only.
Well, and they could start out by keyboard warrioring it on Zoom and actually logging into their meetings and speak. But yeah, more people definitely need to participate. Now, you guys heard the whole explanation about how we had to be ID'd going into the sheriff's department. I couldn't let this slip by, because this one, as we went into the commission meeting this week, I was able to have a little conversation with John Walker, and my camera doesn't always pick up everything while I'm live. But this a little 5-minute take back and forth with John Walker, where he basically throws all his deputies under the bus and says he doesn't know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, afternoon, John. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right. Let me get this thing set down here. No, you're fine. You're totally fine.
I would.
You're totally fine.
That's where you're wrong.
Oh, that's him, okay?
Well, he should already believe that.
I was thinking that was a motion patch on the back of the neck, that you must have nicked it somewhere. So
So between
Yeah. My wife does the same thing.
Starting gap, one that
Yeah.
be just big enough if somebody was too far over and they dropped the tire and it would be a bad.
So, John, before the meeting, I was hoping I could clear this up with you.
Clear what up?
Well, I got a hold of this policy here about access to the sheriff's department,
Okay.
and I don't find anything in there that says people need to ID themselves when coming into the office.
Well, they're making a report with us, they do, because we need to put them on the report.
Well, obviously,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
But your dispatchers over there have been operating with the understanding that anybody that comes in there needs to offer their driver's license to be able to be scanned for wants and warrants.
they don't scan it.
Well, we've been literally told that by your deputies and by other staff members at your office.
We don't have nothing to scan it with.
Okay. Why would your deputies and your staff members tell us that if that's not happening?
I don't know.
Okay. The other question I have here is about your visitor policy. Anyone coming into the sheriff's office will be escorted at all times, never leaving that person alone.
Okay.
Your public lobby in the front, we'll go ahead and defer to the
That's
meeting.
when they're inside, when we take them back into the jail.
Okay.
Not the lobby.
We need
Okay.
to start
Just when we
with
escort them back into
the
the jail.
county and rural fire revenue neutral rate.
So if you don't have this ID policy where people have to have their IDs scanned, I guess I'm curious why we had people tell us that we had to over there. Just to be in there.
Probably because you're dealing with some new dispatchers that are still trained.
And Susan Klein would be a new dispatcher that's still in training.
No. But they may take your ID to look at it, make sure that's who you are.
Okay.
But that ain't standing it.
But regardless, why is an ID needed to come into the public lobby of the sheriff's office? I've been in there a number of times. You've never seen my ID.
I haven't been there, I've been busy.
Okay. I'm hoping that you can start to understand that we're not down here trying to enforce what we can get away with and what we're allowed to do. Because we're obviously allowed to go into the sheriff's department and film. We're obviously allowed to go in there without having to turn over our IDs. This is about what's happening with your citizens.
What's happening with them?
Well, your cousin was arrested out here over a Fourth Amendment violation, and I understand that he's a mouthy son of a bitch and he gets a lot of people cross. But what happened in that situation was wrong, and it was a constitutional violation. Because of the check-in on the doors, we've proved over the last 2 weeks we've been able to access this courthouse both weeks without pushing that button, and neither time has anybody come to enforce anything on us. So
unfortunately, I got a gag order on me on that, so I can't speak.
You got a gag order on you?
Judge put gag orders
On
Walker's deal. So I
okay,
can't speak to you on that.
well, forget Walker's deal, but let's talk about why I'm able to access this courthouse twice in the last 2 times I've come down here without pushing that button and without giving my name.
To a regular scheduled
Well, probably
scheduled
took the
meeting.
news by now.
Don't they know your cousin?
Order and start
They don't.
to stand and.
He hasn't lived around here all his life? He hasn't lived around here that long?
Now, see, Robert, if you're listening, your cousin John just said that the people in the courthouse know Justin and I better than they know who you are. I want everybody down there to let that sink in, because from my understanding, Robert's been around that area. I won't say all his life because I don't know that, but my understanding, he'd been around there for quite a long time. And I'm pretty surprised to hear his own damn cousin say that the people in the courthouse wouldn't know who he is. And besides that, I think everybody down there knows who the hell Robert is anyway. It's kind of like everybody knows who you and I are up here.
It's a very small town. What I've noticed just talking to people there is that they all seem to know everybody there. Just every other citizen seems to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Lori, I
Lori,
don't think the gag order's a lie.
I was reading that comment there.
Yeah. Walker is lying his ass off. And
the Sheriff Walker, yeah.
Yeah, Sheriff Walker is.
Yeah.
But
well, and so that goes back to that first clip you showed of us when we went into the sheriff's department on July 9th, and how adamant they were that we could not see the sheriff and we could not conduct any business in there without first giving their ID in there. So there he is, what are we at? Like 6 weeks later, he's saying, well, I don't know why they would say that.
Okay,
I don't
there
know
you
why.
go. There you go. That's Jennifer Walker, and she's saying that her husband Robert has been there 22 years, and he actually worked for the county for 5.
Yeah.
So the idea that his own cousin would say that the people in the county office know us better after we've been down there, let's see, we'd been down there, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 times, 4 times.
It's another lie, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's another fucking lie.
But cops are allowed to lie.
Yeah, it's so fucked up, man. I mean, the amount of lies that we've caught cops on just lying is pretty damn unbelievable. I mean, but it's to be expected.
Yep.
And they wonder why we don't trust them.
Yeah, Clinton, the judge probably didn't put a gag order on the sheriff, but I'm pretty sure the county did, because they know that they know that things are going sideways for them, and they don't want the sheriff to get them in any more trouble than Love already has.
Yeah. And then one other thing that happened since we went there that first time on July 9th, they didn't have any kind of signs up or anything on the sheriff's department. But then when we went back 2 weeks ago, they had put up these signs that said no audio or video recording allowed in the building. And then yesterday when we went there, they still had those signs, but they had put additional signs up there stating some sort of statute that they felt gave them the justification for putting those signs up to restrict recording in there that would give them permission to basically arrest you for it and stuff like that. But the reason why I bring that up is just another example of the reactive nature of it. So prior to us showing up, asking questions, no signs, and then they just slowly start to shrink it in. It's the same thing that happens at meetings as well. They start, how do we restrict? How do we restrict? How do we prevent? How do we prevent? That's what they try to do once people start to show up. And none of it's allowed. It's all illegal. They can't be doing that shit.
Right. And what he's saying about the signs is real. Because
Hey, John! Fuck it today.
This is from this weekend.
Hey, John!
Yeah.
He's going to take off. He's running.
I thought I heard somebody, but no.
But you guys,
that's Kelly Young.
Signs that are on
she
the
used
door
to be a police officer out in California and couldn't remember where.
Okay, so I think this is new, then, right?
Okay,
this is new right here.
Do not touch the glass.
All right. Now I'm just going to say, I had to touch the glass. They said don't touch the glass, so I just had to.
Okay, according to KCJIS system, this is a secure area.
Now, you guys can copy those down and look them up if you want, but those are laws that don't apply in this situation. That one of them is talking about people that are involved in the actual criminal justice system not being allowed to release information. And the other one is talking about facilities and security of data retention facilities and things like this. Neither one of these applies to the public lobby of the sheriff's department. And we've already been through over and over again through I don't know how many different cases about you have to create your own privacy if you want privacy.
Violators will be removed and all devices confiscated. Let's do this.
And see that sign right there where it says restricted area? Down a little lower, it says there's no audio, video, or anything inside there. And I asked Walker how much he'd spent on that sign, and he said they just had it laying around there somewhere. I got a feeling that was a lie too.
How do you even know if you're recording?
Yeah, so.
And they got that sign on this door right over here too. On this wooden door over here too. Yep. But that's about as much of that we needed to go over. But you see the new signage that's been put up that don't have any laws behind them.
None. There's no teeth behind it at all. And then you got Walker saying, he's not backing up his employees, that these other procedures, they don't apply. But the thing about it is, like, how do they even know if you're recording or not? So you're just holding your phone. If I was holding my phone out like this, then I'm automatically recording and they can come up and fucking start interacting with you. I mean, where do they draw the line with this shit?
Yep. And let's see, what have we left out, Doc? Have we covered everything we needed to cover?
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, so basically what you've seen, guys, is the situation where you have a county attorney in Elk County, Kansas, who has been literally caught in her lies. And what do you do in that situation? The only thing you can do is turn her into the ODA, and hopefully they investigate it right.
And expose what happened, what we're doing now, expose, let people know.
Well, and I want to touch on one other thing, because that the document, the motion. Now I knew it existed because before any really big discussions had happened, I got a text talking about how Jill was so upset and this and that, but it wasn't really specific about anything, just that we'd offended her somehow. But I thought the ease of us getting that document from him, I don't think we've showed that yet, have we?
Getting the motion yesterday.
Yeah. So guys, here's the thing. One of the really offensive things about how Jill went about this is, after she made all these lies in court, she petitioned the judge to seal everything. And now what the judge did do was sealed all the bullshit evidence that she was bringing to try to support her claims against us, because the judge was smart enough to realize just to throw all this press crap that she was throwing in the way aside and just focus on the trial like he's supposed to, which I think is probably the best thing he could have done. But she moved to seal all this stuff and left many of us with the lay impression, like I said, we're not lawyers, we don't do this every day, but she left a number of us with the impression that not only was the evidence that she brought forth sealed, but that the motion was itself. And, the last couple of days when I was finishing up that complaint to the ODA, I realized how important that motion would be and was able to get access to it. And it wasn't as hard as I thought. And generally, motions are something that should be public. Anything that's already been filed with the court should be a public document. And this is how easy it was to get that motion. I did cut out the time where what was her name again? Was it Sarah?
Sarah, yeah.
Yeah, Sarah had problems with her printer. But this was real easy to get this motion from them.
So easy, as Janet Harrington pointed out, that they didn't even charge us for the paper they printed it on.
Right. And the sheriff's office, they should have better equipment in there if they're charging $1 a copy. No.
Yeah.
Got any new signs here? Any new signs? No new signs that I can see. I don't know that there's a statute assigned to it.
Did he say he said that?
Well, he did, but I don't know that there is. Hello. Well, we're trying to get access to a motion that was filed in district court.
How many years are we talking?
How many years?
Yeah.
July 10th of this year.
What party would be attached to it? How would I look at it?
This would be in the matter of Robert Walker Jr., and it was filed by Jill Gillette on July 10th. Exactly. I think we're going to have to.
Okay, that should be the motion.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Have a good day.
guys.
Guys, I tell you what, I'm gonna get up close so you can see the name of this motion, because I don't know that I've ever seen a title for a motion that was that long.
Yeah, eat your heart out, Jill. I think she was hoping that everybody would still be convinced that it was sealed, that nobody would actually try to bring it out into the light.
Yep, but we asked. That's what it takes. Just ask.
And that's the thing that they rely on, is they rely on the bluff, and basically, you can't get that information. It's too difficult. It's a private document. It's a sealed document, just like she did in court, arguing that the affidavit is a sealed document and that all the records are sealed and things like that. So, yeah, I got nothing for her other than find a different job.
Yeah, well, they're banking on that we don't know enough, and most of us probably don't. But we all know that we can just show up there and ask a question if we want to, And then that's when it starts to, you just pull the thread and it just starts to fucking kind of come undone a little bit, and that's what's precisely been happening here.
Yep. Well, I don't have a whole lot left, Doc. I think we've covered everything pretty well tonight.
We have.
And
I appreciate everyone that watched. Looks like there's 93 people here right now, and there's some about 15 over on my channel right now. I appreciate everyone that has been watching. It's been great.
Definitely. And make
glad
sure
you guys are interested in what we're doing and you find it worthy of your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if you guys are locals down there, you know, you guys have really got to start standing up behind people like Janet and people like the people that went in there asking questions about their taxes. You know, you got to become a little bit more active. And, you know, I would like to see you guys come together and get that commission to move those meetings to a Wednesday evening or something, or to a Tuesday evening or something where most of you could actually be able to participate, because having it be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday is really incredibly inconvenient. And then the people that your retirees and stuff, I mean, they're probably not interested in driving into town for a dumb meeting that nobody goes to. But I'm sure some of the taxpayers who are trying to be a part of the community and trying to make the community better, you know, that make a difference, right?
Yep. Get involved.
All right. Well, Doc, I appreciate you, and you have a good night. And I appreciate all you guys tuning in. And we will go ahead and cut her off. Thanks, everyone. A little bit of dreaded accountability closing out.